So we're going to look at the strokes panel in addition to you looking at the width tool. So for the sake of this, let's just we'll start at the top here. So I'm going to click in here. All right, so the strokes panel is right here. You can see where I'm kind of moving my mouse. If you don't see the stroke panel, don't forget you can always go to Window and then you scroll down to Stroke, and then this can come up. Now, if you don't see this full panel, um, you might see it something like this. So if you click on the three lines right here, it will open it up for you and you can see more of the options. All right, so the width of this, so if we're thinking about the width, you can see that the width you can set here, and certainly you can set them individually. As you can see that I've actually done something to kind of look and show its progression, right? So as it's kind of getting larger. So you have an idea of how large you can make the different strokes. And of course, you know, you're not limited to just what's in this menu here. You can certainly always type in a value that you think is what you need. All right, so this is just the width of the stroke. If we click on this line segment here, let's go ahead and talk about caps here. So generally it's set at this flat end cap here. But when you click on this, you have three options here. One is where you have the point is where it creates this flat line. You can also do rounded like this so that you have a rounded in. And then this last option here actually extends past the point. So I'm actually just going to zoom in a little bit more. So again, when we do our first one, it ends at where the point is. We have the rounded right here, and then we have this one, which actually kind of extends past the point right here. So this might be helpful to you in a variety of different ways, and you probably won't even recognize that you need to do it until you find yourself looking for this as an option. All right, I'm going to zoom out here. This next one here, you can see that at the end. So the caps are the very ends here. But when we talk about this sort of joint right here, and either you want to call this a V or just the shape that looks like a V. And if you remember, this point is called the corner point here, and it's not the end point. So here you can see that the default is going to be where it makes a corner. You can round this. So a lot of times this will happen, especially when you have sort of dramatic lines here. This will become even more dramatic, but their choices are here where you can select the first option here is what it has it at, and then we can do rounded, and rounded could work well, especially if you're doing like a rounded cap. Okay, I'm going to just put that back. And then we can also do a mitered. Okay, so the mitered could look something like this, where it has a flat end that will share sort of the characteristic of what you're seeing here. So it is an option. You can also go back here to the very first option and you can play around with some different values here as you are sort of playing around. You can see it's not doing all that much because I'm not making a huge difference. All right, the next thing is alignment. So if we look at this here, really want you to pay attention to where we have this blue line here that shows kind of the center part of this stroke. So in this instance here, this is where it's in the center. We can also have it so that the stroke is, or this blue line is on the outside and the stroke is in the inside. You can also do it on the outside of this as well. So in some cases you might want to do this. I, for the most part, almost always use this default here. But it is an option so that as you're working, you can consider that as an option. All right, let me come out here a little bit. Let's move over to dashes. So I have this rectangle right here. And the way that this is going to work is when you have this clicked here, you need to select the dashes right here, and you need to put in some value. Right now I have just default of the 12 by 23. So the dash versus the gap. So how long you want your dash. So we can change these incrementally. So let's go up to 15. And then you see how I kind of just made that longer. Um, so you can play with these as you sort of want to change the increments. If you want to move or navigate to the next window right here where you can put in the next value, just press the tab button. So one of the things that I want to show you right now is the way that this is going right now means that it's just following the line here and it's not taking into consideration any of the corners. So we have kind of this funky sort of line up here, but then we don't actually see any of the corner here or here. Then we have this sort of kind of funky sort of corner right here. So if I reselect this, I can select the second option here. So right above or right to the right of the dash line section, you can either leave it like this, or you can actually make it sort of fit so that the corners are obvious here. So this is one way that can help as you are doing this to make sure, especially like on a shape like a rectangle, that you see the actual corners. All right, so with this reselected, I can come in here and I'm just going to use my arrow key to make either more or less of the dash. And then I can come in here and I can do the same with the gap. So if I want the gap to be much smaller, this might be super helpful. So for example, if you're making something that like you want someone to cut out a coupon, for example, you may want to provide them with a bit more structure here. So you can make it either smaller or larger by just hitting the um, uh, arrow keys, or you can type it in. All right, I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. Okay, so let's look at this stroke that I have right here. Let me make sure that I have it on the selection tool and not the direct selection tool. So in the strokes panel, it allows us to also create arrowheads. So we don't actually have to like make a line and then make a triangle. We can use these defaults in here. So the way this works is depending on how you drew the stroke. So in drawing the stroke from here to here, you can see that if I select this is going to be the beginning of the stroke that I created, and this is going to be the end of the stroke. So I can come in here and there's these preset arrows, and you can see that I also have some other icons that I can use, especially like if I were doing something like a where I want someone to cut out a coupon, for example. So I'm just going to come in here and select an arrow like this. And actually you can see that it's on this side here. And then I can also kind of give it a end here if I want it, right? So like an arrow, and it's huge. So let's go and change the scale of this. So I'm going to bring this back down to like 3 points here. And now we can kind of see what we're looking at. Now, I can do a couple of things. Here's an option. So say that I don't want this direction. Maybe I want it the other direction. So I can click on this button and it will change the orientation or the rotation of the um, arrows here. I can also come in and, change out. So right now you can see that this arrow is so tiny in comparison to this part of this arrow. So if I select this, I can actually scale these parts differently and independently. Now, I need to actually unlock this. So I'm going to click on this to unlock it. And oops, sorry, it was already unlocked. Sorry. So I can actually increase the scale. So maybe I'll change this to 150. So that becomes much larger. And then maybe I change the scale of the back end here to maybe 75. And you can see that now I can kind of come in and create the proportions that I want by doing this manually. You can also change where the point is. So if I just go to the direct selection tool so I can see exactly where the anchor is, you can see that I can change the alignment of this as well, where I have either it goes past the anchor point or it goes up to the actual anchor point here. So you can see that you can play with this in a different variety here. And now you can see that the triangle area here is much larger than the back end here. So maybe I change this to let's go 120. I'll just press tab there. Again, these are options for you to kind of go ahead and play with to get the proportions that you want. So this one actually might work well if it's just both at 100%. So I'm going to change that. And so it saved it as 100 because that is where I had locked it. So if I want them to be both locked, I need to get them both at 100 and then go ahead and lock that. All right. So that's arrows here. All right. An additional thing here is what we call profiles. So if we use this stroke tool here, I'm going to press the V just to make sure we have it on the selection tool. You can see that there are also some presets of profiles. We saw this a bit or something similar to this when we're working with our brushes. So you can actually come in and look at and make sort of different profiles. Right now, the original was under uniform, but you can go in and select a different type of profile if you want your stroke to look different. Okay, so there are some that are independent here, and you can see that with different profiles, I get some different options here. I can also come in here and I can, once I make some sort of change to it, I can go ahead and save it. There's also a way that you can come in and load in some other profiles. Okay. All right. Let's move over to, let's go do the dots here. Let's kind of just come back all the way over here. So I'm going to move this into the center of the page. All right, so the dots actually, we're going to use the same item in the stroke panel as dashes. So we're going to go ahead and just click dashes on. And you can see that when the dashes come in, you can see I have a rounded edge here. And you can see that I did the rounded in the corner here. Just go ahead and just move this back to this and we'll just keep it rounded here. Now, the way that the dashes work, or to make this dots, we use the dashes here. And we want to actually, our dash, we want to put it as 0. So once we have it as 0, and you can see as soon as I click off on it, it makes it a dot. And then we can change the gap by just kind of continuing just like we did with the dashes where we can either increase the spacing or decrease the spacing. But the trick here to make the dot here is that one, it needs to be at the rounded cap here, and it needs to be set to 0 for our dash. That way it no longer has a line and it just comes up as a series of dots. Okay. And then the next thing we're going to do, which is not actually in this panel, but it does deal with the stroke and sort of the profile of the stroke that we were working with. So this is where I want to share with you the width tool. So I have this selected here. The width tool is right here. So I'm going to hover over it like this. And the cool thing about the width tool is it does allow me to work independently. So I can say like this right now is consistent weight all the way through. But say that I want to make a unique profile that's not a profile here. I can just click on this and then I can drag out. And when I do that, I can then start to make sort of a unique profile. And this could be helpful depending on what it is that you're drawing. You can kind of come in here and do that. Now, say that you don't want it to be equal on either side. So you can see by default, it automatically makes any sort of adjustment. So when I click on this and I pull out or I pull in, it changes it the same on either side. But the instances where you may want to actually adjust only one side and not the other. So if you actually click on this right here and then hold down the option key, it will allow you to adjust just one of these points so that you can change the profile of one of these, okay? And you can do that at any place as you're working on this. So again, you're using the option key, you're holding down the option key in order to make this adjustment. And you can see that I didn't hold the option key down, but because it was already there, that was sort of the default. Okay, so the width tool can be really an awesome way in order to make different variations in thickness and thinness. So let's go ahead and just, oops, got a little too excited there. I'll go back to the V key. And I actually have this locked here, so I'm just going to draw a marquee in order to, well, I was trying to zoom in, so let's see if we can do this again. There we go. All right. So let's go ahead and make a stroke that would fill the blue area here. So I'm going to go and get my pen tool, and I'm just going to click here. And certainly you can click in a couple of areas. I might try, let's try to do it in 2 and 3 points here. So I'm going to do this one like here. And then I'm going to do it like this. And you can see that the fill is in. I'm going to just press return. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to switch this so that the fill is exchanged with the stroke like this arrow. There we go. All right, and now that I have that, I'm going to go to the selection tool just to make sure to activate that. And then let's go to our stroke panel. And let's go ahead and start with a stroke. So we'll just kind of look at some different stroke options. And actually, just to make this a little easier, let's go ahead and give this just a different color. And I don't want to do the colors in the back, so let's just pick a totally different color. So we'll just do green here. And I see that when I did that, I actually had it on the fill. So let me go ahead and turn that off. There we go, like this. All right, so now we can see what this looks like here. And I can either move this around, but I can now see it a bit better. So let's go back to the stroke panel here. And okay, so obviously the 100 is way too big. So if I go to 60, it could maybe work. Okay, so let's just actually go with 60 here. And then now that I have this, let's see if we can fill this and adjust this so that it fits in with the blue shape here. And I'm having a hard time selecting this. Okay, remember you have to select when it's just a stroke, you have to select the stroke, this little blue line, in order to move it. All right, so I'm going to go to my width tool here. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to adjust this, something like this. And actually, I'm going to undo that because I actually want to adjust it from the very end like this. And I'm just going to bring that in, something like that. And then because this point is not where I want it at, I'm going to click the A. And just so I can click on this, and then I'm going to bring this down so that it touches there. Perfect. All right, let's do that here as well. So I'm going to click on that to activate just this point, and I'm going to come to the edge like this. All right, I can also see that this is a flat end. So let's go back to the stroke panel here and let's go ahead and just click on this curved here. So we can see what the curve looks like. And then we can, I think that's probably what we want to do there. So we'll just leave it like that. And then we'll move, click on this again since we have the direct selection tool, and I bring this back, something like this, okay? All right, and then we'll go back to our width tool, and then we'll start to sort of adjust this, okay? So you can see that as it comes out here, I'm going to bring this in like this so that I can kind of get it to the right size and scale. So obviously, I probably wouldn't do this with this particular tool, but it does definitely allow you to do this if this is something that you would like to do. So I'm going to just move this in a little bit. Let's kind of focus on this middle part a little bit more. Let's see if we can get that in here. So I'll adjust that a little bit there. And then go back to our tool here. And then we'll sort of play with that a little bit. So you can see we're kind of getting it a little better. And then I'm going to take this. I'm going to go to the direct selection tool so that I can maybe come in here. I'm going to adjust this curve here. So I'm going to do Shift C, and this will allow me to change this like this. So do you see what I'm doing here? So if I was kind of working to sort of fill this in, you can see that I'm able to sort of match this a little bit better, something like that. And then we'll go back to our width tool here. And oops, I clicked the wrong one. And then as I'm doing this, I will continue to adjust. So anyways, this here was just a way in order to kind of show you how you can play with this. Remember, you can hold down the Option key. If one side is different than the other, you can always adjust one side by just selecting the Option key as you're working along this, okay? So I can, for example, I can come out like this and make this a little wider like that, but then that's too wide, so maybe I kind of bring that back in. So you can see that you can play around with that a bit. All right, I'm just going to bring this, whoops, let me select this and bring this down. And you see it's kind of caught in here because I was using the width tool. And okay, so I can do something along this and make it maybe fit a bit better like that. All right, so you can just kind of play along with that and see how that works and see how you can kind of manipulate these. Again, this was just to try to show you an activity where you could work with the width tool and work with the sides independently, was really why I was creating this little activity here, so that we can have a chance to, again, play with the width tool and see if we can kind of get that lined up and see if we can cover up the blue. All right, so this is the strokes panel. All right, let's talk about a compound path or compound shape. This is really useful when you need to alter the shape, but you don't want to make it so that you can't easily go back and change or edit it. So we'll start from left to right here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the two circles like this. Let's see, like this. Okay. With the two circles selected, I'm now going to go to Object and scroll down to Compound Path and press Make. Now, on first appearance here, you might say, oh, it just cut out the center part here. But what we can do is if we double click on this in order to turn it into isolation mode and then go to the direct selection tool here, I should be able to, I should be able to move this around. See, we can actually easily get to that by going to group selection tool here. Oh, there we go. And then now we can move it around. So say that we're doing this and we have to change the inside shape here. So I can change the scale of this if I wanted to. This will allow me to make some changes and some differences to this. So it's an editable opportunity for you to kind of go back. So I'm going to double click to get out of your isolation mode. Okay, so when I come into the center three circles here, so if you have green, this sort of grayish blue, and then this tan color, again with the selection tool, I'm going to do a marquee over it like this. I'm going to go to Options here and go to Compound Path and go to Make. And you can see that it punched it out. Again, if I double click on it, it takes me into isolation mode and should be able to then be able to select the individual shape. And you can see that when I do this, I can actually pull this all the way out of this, but this will allow me to make some adjustments based on whatever needs I might have. So I'm doing this so that I can then go in and make changes without affecting or having to redraw something. All right, this last one, I'm going to do the same sort of thing. I'm going to draw a marquee over it to select it all. I'm going to go to Object and go to Compound Path. And then when it made the compound path, do you see that it didn't punch out all of the even and odds like this? And this happens because I have more than just three. So with this being selected, I'm going to now go up to Window and I'm going to come down to Attributes. And when this window comes up here, these two icons right here, it will, the one that is default is this Use Non-Zero Winding Fill Rule. The other one next to it is Use Even Odd Fill Rule. And when I click on that, you can see that it punches it out. So if you ever find yourself in a situation where it's not punching out the way that you think, make sure that you go into the attributes here and change the icon here from the Use Non-Zero Winding Fill Rule to the Use Even Odd Fill Rule. Again, this is the same thing where you double click on it to make it into the isolation mode, and then you can come in and select the individual parts and move things around as needed. So this is a great way to make a shape without eliminating or deleting part of it so that you can go in and make changes as needed. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about shape modes. So I have two overlapping shapes here, and we're going to start with this left one here. So if I come up to the selection tool and then I select and drag to make this marquee over here, it will select both the blue and this hot pink color. As you can see, this blue shape, this blue circle, is on top of the hot pink color. So if I want to use the shape modes, which we can find in the Pathfinder panel, if you don't already have it in the side here, you can always locate it by going to Window, scroll down to Pathfinder, and then this menu will come up. With these two images or these two shapes selected, if I click on Unite here, the Unite will not only make the entire shape now become the same sort of color and fill, but now you'll see that if I click on the direct selection tool, it actually has changed the geometry of it so that now we have one continuous shape with these anchors here. Now, one way that we can do this where we can make it so that it is a compound path where we can then kind of move things around is if I go ahead and I again select these two shapes, but this time I'm going to select the ones on the right, and I'm going to open up the panel again, and this time when I hit on Unite, I'm going to hold down the Option key. When I do the Option key and click, you'll see that what it's done is that not only has it made it look like it's one continuous shape now, it has not changed the geometry. Now you can see that if I go to my group selection tool, I can actually come in here. Whoops, let me click off here. I can actually move this independently. So if there's something that I need to adjust, it will now allow me to do that where I was not able to do that in the left-hand side. So again, when you're using the shape modes, go ahead and use the Option key, and this will make it into a compound shape, and it will allow it to be editable, which is super useful from time to time where you don't want to actually change the geometry. Okay, let's go ahead and look at, so I'm going to bring this down. We're going to continue looking at not only the shape modes, but also the Pathfinder panel. So I'm going to go ahead and just click on it so that it comes out. And actually, I'm just going to drag it out just so that we have it and it doesn't collapse into this, okay? So one thing that I want you to recognize is that the top four here are going to be the top shape modes here. And then when you look at the bottom 6 here, what I want you to recognize is that there is one group here under the merge that has 2 red hearts here. And the red hearts here is it's on purpose, okay? So I just want to draw your attention to that as why it's different, and I'll explain that in just a moment. All right. For the sake of this, we already looked at Unite, but just for the sake of this, let's just draw a marquee over it. And without holding the Option key, we're just going to click on it, and you'll see that Unite will unite it, and the green square that is on top is the topmost shape. And what that will do is it will tell, when we use the Unite, it will change the entire shape to the green with the outline because it recognizes the appearance or the characteristics of the front shape to make everything else, okay? So in the next one, I'm going to click on here and go through the next one, and you can see that it will subtract out the front. I'm going to do a marquee over this, and when I do the intersect here, it's going to cut away the 2 sides here, and only the part that is overlapping is it going to keep. And then the exclude here is going to do the opposite of that. So if I do a marquee over this, it will then leave these 2, and then this center part will be erased like that. All right, now let's look at the divide. So I'll go ahead and make a marquee over and select all 3 hearts here. When I come to the Pathfinders here, I'm going to click on the divide. And when I do the divide, you'll see that it doesn't look like it did much. But if I come in here and I zoom in, whenever I use any of these, it's automatically going to group together. So you have to actually ungroup, which is Shift-Command-G. And with it being ungrouped here, I can now come in and click. And when I do this, you can see that it has actually uh, it has divided all of the individual shapes into different pieces. Okay, now I'm going to do a marquee over the 3 again here. And when I do this, I'm going to click on the next one here, which is trim. Again, remember when you're thinking about this, that the top shape is what it's going to trim by. So when I click on that, okay, it trimmed here. But when it trimmed here, do you see it? It got rid of the outline. So I'm going to hold Command Shift G to ungroup. And then here you can see that when it trimmed it based on just these 3 shapes and not anything that was overlapping. It preserved the pink over the red. The pink was over the red, and so was the purple over the red, which is why these 2 were cut out of the red heart here. All right, merge here. Remember, this is the one that had the 2 that are the same color. So when I do a marquee over the 3 shapes here, and I come in here and I click on merge, the merge, it will take the characteristics. So if it's the same color, it will merge those 2 colors together. So again, it grouped it together. So then I'll press Shift Command G. And when I do that, you'll see that these have been merged together and this one is separate. All right, let's come down to crop here. I'll do the same thing where I draw a marquee to select them all. When I have them selected all and I come down to crop like this, you see that it actually cropped everything except what it was overlapping. So again, I'm just going to undo just so you can see. So if you look at the icon here, you can see the things that are overlapped. I have 3 shapes here. So when I do the crop here, it's only going to keep the part that is overlapping, the last sort of overlapping section, and that is right here. When I do outline here, select them all. When we do outline, a lot of people, when we do this, they often think that nothing has happened except everything disappeared. So I'm going to press outline like this. And with this still selected, what it's done is it made the color of the hearts now just the outline of the shapes here. But when it did this, it changed the thickness of the stroke. So I need to come in and change the stroke thickness. So I'm going to open up the stroke panel here, and you see how it went from the weight, it went down to 0. So if I click on here and I move down to 4, for example, you will see that now the colors of the hearts are now the outlines of these hearts. What it has also done is that it has separated them amongst each of the shapes. So if I do Shift Command G, you will see that when I click off and I pull these apart, you will see that they are now individual shapes or line segments of these colors. Okay, so you have all of these sorts of outlines. This can be super useful, and it took the characteristics of the color. All right, and this last one here, I'll do a marquee over all of these. Because I have 3 here in the stacking order, so I'm just click this and then do minus back. When it does that, do you see that it is taking out everything that's in or behind it? So not only it's cutting away this red heart, it's cutting away the pink and part of this purple because it's overlapping like that. And then the only thing that is left is only the one part that was not overlapping. So it's going to take away all of the pink because of the stacking. If it was only 2 hearts, it would be different. But because there's 3, this purple heart is on top, the pink heart, and then the red heart. So if I then do this, this is what we have left. So these are great tools for us to continue to build and construct our objects and shapes as we draw in Illustrator. All right, so I want to show you a new tool, the Shape Builder tool. But I want to show you, I just showed you how to use the Pathfinder panel, and I want to show you how or why you might want to use the Shape Builder in some instances over the Pathfinder panel. And this is like sort of a good example here. So the first thing I'm going to do in this one, so I'm just going to focus on this one to the left. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click the smallest circle. So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an eye right here. I'm using these circles here to help me to do this. So I'm going to come into what I'm going to refer to as the highlight here, and I'm just do Command C in order to copy. Now I'm going to click on the two larger circles here, and I'm going to come over to my panels over here, and I want to select intersect. And you can see that now I have my eye here. All right, now what I'd like to do is I'm going to click on the little highlight again and the larger circle like this, and then I'm going to select the minus front. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to click on Command F, and this is actually going to place in front of. So remember when I just copied it and put it into the clipboard? I'm pasting that on top here. And I needed that because now I'm going to click on this and the inside circle here by holding down the Shift key like this. And now I'm going to do the minus front again. And now you can see that I have cut this up here. Okay, so let me just go ahead and give this a color. So I'm going to give this a black here, and we'll go ahead and give this color, let's say a blue, like this. Okay, so this is how we've been able to do this and maintain this as a highlight. Now, with the Shape Builder tool, I will be able to do this more quickly with fewer steps. So in order to use the Shape Builder tool, we have to select it all. So that's different than what's happening in the Pathfinder. Now the Shape Builder tool is this tool right here. I kind of think of it as a snowman on its side. I'm not exactly sure why I associate it with that, but that's kind of what I always look at for. All right, so now that I've selected that, you can see that as I hover over the individual shapes here, it kind of grays it out. And this will tell me that I can do something in these shapes. The other thing that I want to show you is when you look at the cursor, do you see there's a little plus symbol here? So when you see it as a plus symbol, it will add it as we're kind of building. And then if I hold down the Option key, do you see how it changes it to a minus? So here I'm just going to hold down the Option key and I'm going to click on this shape and I'm going to click on this shape, and now I've just removed those. And then as I hover over here, I have the plus symbol here, but the way this works is I have to click and then drag as if I'm making sort of a line between this. So click, and I'm going to drag over to this one, and it's going to add it together. All right. And then that is all I needed to do. So now I'm just going to deselect here, and then I'm just going to go to the tool, the selection tool here, and I'm going to put in, oops, the black here. And now I've been able to do the same thing with a lot fewer steps. Okay, so why you might want to use the Shape Builder tool. All right, with that being said, if you slide over to our right here, I have this cute little raccoon graphic that we're going to use the Shape Builder as a way to sort of quickly connect the shape so that we can then colorize it. Okay, so again, just like what we've done before, you have to select everything here. So I just did a marquee here, and I'm going to go and select the Shape Builder, which is Shift M. And then as I hover over, I don't want this shape, I don't want this shape, or this shape, or this shape. Okay, so now I want to connect these so that you see the plus symbol here. I'm just going to drag. You see how that little line is sort of forming here? It allows me to sort of connect these shapes here. And then I'm going to continue doing that. So I want, let's see, I want this to be connected all the way out like this, and this one as well. Let's get that little corner there. And then these are going to be like little, like almost like the cheeks. It's going to be like blush here, giving it a little bit of color. And then I have the nose here, so I'm going to go ahead and just click all the way through there. And then I'm going to see if it's a little easier for us. I just did the Command plus to zoom in. And I'm actually going to connect these little shapes here to the background. So I'm going to click here and then drag into that, and then drag into that. And then this one I want to connect with this tiny little triangle right there. I'll go ahead and do that. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect here. This is going to be a highlight, but I need to click here to select it so that the circle comes forward. And then I'm going to hold down the Option key and I'm going to click to delete, click on this one and click on this one. All right, let's pull back out. Let's see, did we miss anything that we wanted to connect? No, I think we're ready to colorize it. So with that being said, I can just press the V key now and I just click off. I'm going to go to my swatches here and let's go ahead and colorize this. So I'm going to select the background here and give it some sort of gray. So go ahead and do that gray here. Do a gray here as well. All right. I'm going to do this little shape here and the shape here. I'm going to make this one black like that. And then let's go ahead and click on this one, hold down the shift key, click on this one. I'm going to also make that one black. And then let's get these little circles here. And instead of doing blue, let's do a maybe green. So we'll do a green color, maybe a green like this. All right, the nose, I'm just going to make the nose black here like that. And then I'm going to make the cheeks here. So I'm going to click on the cheek here, the cheek here. We'll use the open the mouth here and the inside of the ears. So I'm going to click all of these all at the same time. And you can see that in my recents here, I have a pink, but just because you may not have one, let's go ahead and just click on this pink here. And it comes in, it's way too bright. So we're just going to double click on the fill here. And I'm just going to move it to a lighter pink over here. So I'm just going to select that and then do that. All right, and then deselect, and now you can see I have this cute little icon or graphic of a little raccoon here. Okay, so I want to show you another way in which you can crop out aspects of your drawing where you don't actually delete those parts. So for the sake of this, what we're going to do is we're going to start this by going up to our layers panel, and we're going to click next to the eye right here. We're going to click on that in order to lock it down. Now I'm going to come down to the plus symbol to create a new layer here. And for the sake of just showing you this, we're going to make an organic shape over top of this illustration. So if you're watching my mouse right now, I'm kind of just moving around to capture the figure here and the raining umbrella here. So I'm going to take my pen tool, right? And I'm going to click, and I can click and drag and just kind of make an organic sort of shape around the figure just for the sake of this exercise here. I'll show you what this will end up doing here. Okay. So now that we have this shape here, I can always come in and tweak it by going to the direct selection tool. And I can come in, and if I click on these, I can then move the actual anchors. Remember, we saw that from before. You can do Shift C, which will change this so that you get the handles on either side. And you can adjust one or the other, okay, so that you have the ability to make that more unique, and then switch back to A for your direct selection tool. And then I'm just kind of coming in and pulling this out a little bit, okay, just to sort of make a unique shape here. Okay, I'm not doing anything sort of fancy. I'm just going to come in here and just make this a little more interesting. Okay, so now that I have this white shape on top, to make this clipping mask work, I'm going to come back to the rainy day girl. I'm going to unlock it. Now, the reason why I locked it when I started was so that there wasn't any chance that I would actually select some of the shapes underneath. Okay, I just wanted to be able to draw on top and not select anything that was underneath. So I'm going to unlock this layer here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all. So I'm going to do a marquee over everything, and you can see all the components here. And now I can go to Object, and I'm going to go to Clipping Mask, and I'm going to go to Make. And once that does this, it actually cuts away the part of the illustration so that it only fits into the shape that I'm interested in here. One of the reasons why you will want to do this is say that you need to change this shape or edit it and make some adjustments. Well, it actually hasn't deleted anything in the background. So you could do where you go to Object, go to Clipping Mask, and you can do a couple of things. You can do Edit Contents here, where I can then kind of come in and make some adjustments if I, wanted to move this around, right? For example, right? So I could do that. Maybe I want to have it up or maybe a little lower so that I don't have any of those bushes showing, whatever you would like to do. Okay. You can also, when you go to Object and go to Clipping Mask, is that you can, let me click on that again. Now, with this still selected, I can go to Object and go to Clipping Mask, and I can do Release. And when I do Release, what it's going to do is it's now going to let me go in and see the entire graphic again if I need to turn off that mask. So this is another really great way in order to um, uh, be able to cut away without technically deleting part of your illustration. There's a relatively new tool that has been added to Illustrator that really makes it quite convenient for you to mask certain parts so that it looks like something is interwoven. So what we're going to do here is I've already created this file for you. And if you take the selection tool here and you select on the words here, if you go to the direct selection tool, you'll see that I've actually already changed this from a text to making it so that they're individual objects. Okay. So with that being said, we're going to go over here to our pencil tool here, and I'm just going to draw a line. And when I draw the line, I want the line to be kind of going up and crossing over these open areas within the letters here. Before I do that, I'm going to just hit the return key in order to get the dialog box to come up for pencil. And I want to change the fidelity all the way to smooth, just to make sure that it's nice and smooth and I don't have to change anything. So I'm going to press OK. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line like this where I'm going through some of the open areas between the letters. And you can see that as soon as I released it, it created this nice smooth path along the lines here. All right, with the path selected, I'm going to go over to my brushes palette here. And I've already uploaded these cool sort of brush assets here. And I'm just going to select one of the brushes here. So if I can just come here to this tan brush here, we can now adjust the thickness of this by going to the stroke panel, and I come down here. If I select 3 points, for example, you can see that it has made it thicker along the lines here. Now, for us to be able to do the intertwine, I actually have to go to the selection tool, and now I have to select all. So as I select all, I'm going to go now up to the object, and I'm going to scroll down to intertwine, and I'm going to press make. When I come to here, you can do a couple things. You can actually go over the selection and click like this, or you can draw a lasso, a shape over it like this so that it goes in and out. This is a really neat way to easily make these. It's essentially making a clipping mask, but this helps me to be able to push things in the front or behind, and this has made it so much easier to do that by using this intertwine new feature or new tool in Illustrator.